two systems available for these models. The first and simplest system is the water reservoir, and that's what this is. So you can get the water reservoir as an option in both the Sweetheart and in the Oval. It cannot be retrofitted. It has to be ordered from the factory. So if somebody can't change their mind and say 2 years later, gee, I wish I'd bought the water reservoir, they have to order it at the time. I'm a big fan of having a water reservoir because if you are in a scenario where either you don't have electricity at all, you're off the grid, which we see quite a bit of in cottage and camp areas, or if the power's off, it's very difficult to heat water up in a pot on the top of the stove. It's much easier and more efficient to heat it in a water reservoir. The water reservoir with the lid on also makes a wonderful humidifier. So if you have this in your home and you just keep that steaming away, it's great because it just creates wonderful moisture into the air. So I highly recommend the water reservoir. It's not an outrageously expensive option. I also personally like the look of the stove with it. I think that the stove looks better with it than without it. It's odd for me, we sell most ovals with the reservoir, so it's sort of odd to see one without it. But I highly recommend this. I think it's something that's a really good feature to have for a whole bunch of reasons. Some of them aesthetic, but many very practical to have. Water reservoir, there is a separate damper for the water reservoir, and that is this. Now I found that if you're running the stove really hot, you don't really need to use this damper, because if you use it and the stove is really hot, you can literally boil the water, which is hotter than you need, and it's also going to evaporate quite quickly if it's boiling. And it's also going to put a lot of steam into the room. But if you wish to have it open, simply take that lever and flip it, and you can hear it, if you can pick that up on the camera. But there's a flap in there, so when that's open, it allows the smoke to go up underneath there. And again, we have that clean out, that if you are opening that flap and letting the smoke up in there, you should be sure that you use that clean out to make sure that that's kept clean. Right. We don't recommend drinking the water, but it's great for washing dishes, and in the old days, this is how they heated water up to have a bath. Yeah. Maybe not the most efficient way, but that's how they did it. Now, one caveat here that's really important. With both of these water systems, you can't have the system have the stove hot and say, I don't feel like using it. You have to keep water in there. Now, in the old days, the solder was lead, and it isn't any longer, it's silver. So you don't have to worry about lead issues, but you do have to worry if that thing is dry and you don't have water in it, you can melt the solder. So it's really important that it be kept with water in it. The other system is what's called a water jacket. And the water jacket is a stainless steel box that fits inside the firebox of the stove, and there are in and out pipes that connect to it. And we happen to have a plumber with us today. Eric was a plumber for many years, and I always say that if you've been a plumber, you should do this, and if you haven't been a plumber, you should probably stay away from it, because this isn't for everybody. It's not the simplest thing to do, and the other reality of this is that it's at best supplemental. There are people that think they're going to put this in and they're going to heat all their hot water. It doesn't have enough capacity. Also, are people who feel that they're going to use that to do in-floor heating. Again, not enough capacity. So this thing is really supplemental. Eric could have it in his house and I would be fine with it. He'd be fine with it because he knows what to do with it, but it's not something I recommend to a non-plumber. The other thing is, again, and this is really important, this is a pressure system. And there was a book many years ago that was published on wood burning, and it showed pressure systems that had been improperly installed, and one showed a pressure system that had blown up and taken somebody's leg off. These are pressure systems, and so you can't just pipe it, you have to have the release valves. And the other thing is that you have to, again, keep water in it. So you can't put this system in and then decide it's too much work, I'm not going to run it this winter. To me, it's just, for the average person, it's too complicated. The water reservoir, on the other hand, is great, fantastic, low technology. It's a copper box that warms up. As long as you keep water in it, it's bulletproof. And to me, it's a very nice thing to have the ability to heat hot water in your kitchen.